So, Cryptic Studios just had a Q&A stream where they answer questions from the community with Brett Norton and the community manager. So let's summarize everything so you don't have to watch a full hour replay. Very nicely, they put together a slideshow. And on the first slide, we can see module releases. They want to be getting 3 per year. And they want to have them themed together in like a story block. And we can see more about that here, where each of the blocks will have like a similar theme or narrative. And we'll see that with then module 24 and module 25 having all of that like Underdark theme. Potentially, hopefully, we get a new trial, not Demogorgon, with module 25, which will be launching shortly into the next year. Very nicely, they came out with a roadmap and we can see the near future. This year in August, we had like Growth Valley, and then now we've had in November, the North Dark Reaches. Module 25 will be coming on March in alignment with the D&D movie. Now the picture there is just a generic image and supposedly is not related with the module. And we can see module 26 coming in around June to July. That is the hopefully planned date. And yes, you can see in the events section, we'll indeed be getting the Winter Festival along with the Demogorgon Trial returning. We'll be getting the normal version and the master version, as you can see by this slide with those following rewards. And then lastly, example roadmap for like 2023 to 2024. You can see then like module 27 in November, module 28 in March, and module 29 in June, July. Again, they want to try stick to having 3 modules per year. Now let's go over the most kind of juicy questions they answered on stream that have any real content to them. Somebody asked about modules being released on the same time for all platforms. Yes, moving forward, it is planned always to do so. However, like they did with module 24, try and have the technical update before the actual module launch. For example, the new lighting, that needed to be implemented before the module just in case you ran into any issues. Somebody asked, is master content planned to be so difficult? They confirmed master content is supposed to be pretty challenging. It's supposed to be for that dedicated players who want a challenge. Then somebody asked about the battle passes. Are they going to keep that going? And yes, they will, because they seem to be getting some decent player interactions with that. It helps like mid players and then also helps keep their attention and coming back to the game. Somebody asked about preview server for consoles, and yeah, that is planned for on Xbox. And as for PS, that is also planned. However, there's a lot of red tape around it, so it's going to take some time and it's going to be limited access. You're not going to have just anybody being able to join, unfortunately, like you have on PC. Aster asked about reworking augment companions so that they give percentage stats instead of ratings, and well, they're going to look at it and they will most likely rework some of those striker companions, potentially nerf some of the top ones or increase some of the bottom ones so that they're more balanced. But again, nothing concrete and we shall see. Somebody have asked about RTQ for Zariel. And yeah, they'd like to do that, but right now the focus is all on Demogorgon. Somebody asked about Vault of Stars to the Advanced Dungeon queue, and similarly to like Zariel and RTQ, IC and Voss, that's Infernal Citadel, got taken out because their difficulty level is that just a bit higher. They have certain mechanics which require you to basically be more coordinated than you would have with a random group. And so those would basically need a new version where they dumb down some of the mechanics so that it's easier for random players. And they had that with Castle Ravenloft, where they had pretty low success rates, and over time they've adjusted it, and then now they still have like a pretty low success rate of 75%. They would prefer that to be higher. Somebody asked about insignias and making insignias be easier to upgrade. And they said, yeah, maybe they're keeping an eye out on people's progress. They understand it can be a bit limiting, and they might look at minor ways to make it more easier to obtain insignia dust. Then they asked about like the Reaper store and updating those other vendors, and yeah, appointment vendor will get updated with more desirable items and ultimately make, like, say, less desirable items more cheaper so that they're more equal in terms of their cost to their gain. And that would then include the Reaper's challenge and the trade bar vendor getting some either new rewards or reducing costs of not so valuable items in there. Somebody asked about adding like mechanics to the training room to help players learn certain boss fights, and they like the idea, but it's not really going to work in the training room. They want a more bigger plan where I assume more like when you go into a dungeon for the first few times or something, you'd get tips. I think that's what they were kind of hinting at. You'd get tips and prompts in certain bosses so that you could help learn them when you go against them. I know certain games have done that, and they'll probably do something eventually for Neverwinter. Someone asked about any thoughts on class updates for classes like they did with the Wizard, and they'll be working on the Paladin next. However, with that will come like they're looking at healing balance a bit more, and especially with the Paladin healer, because it's significantly harder compared to other healers to solo heal. That's what they say, at least. And I think it is. For a new player, the Paladin is significantly harder than a Cleric, but that's not to say that Bard and Warlock don't also have their challenges. He also mentioned the Barbarian Sentinel. They want to look at it, tweak a few things, make it a bit more of a stronger tank, let's say. And I especially think it needs more threat generation. He talked about combat enchantments and looking at battle tempered to make it, I guess, a bit more viable. I believe it was Nova asked about instance player cap. It used to be like 25 and they've recently reduced it, and that's just to make sure they have performance and have a solid baseline. And they definitely want to work towards having 25 players again. Then they let loose that Demogorgon will most likely be coming to the preview server next week, so we'll be able to test that before it goes live. Then somebody asked any thoughts or rewards for collection points, and yeah, they've said they've talked about like a collection store where you could spend your points on things, but there's no commit to anything. Somebody asked about like an endless tower challenge, like let's say you'd have in Lost Ark, and yeah, they've talked about it and maybe in the future. Somebody asked about like more variety. I believe it was like pro vigilance, and yeah, buffing up the insignia bonuses was somewhat of a step towards more variety, making them more viable. And they want to look again at new enchantments, like combat enchantments, to give better options as well, like alternative options, possibly adding new boon options, and also not really going to do anything class specific. Somebody asked about rank 6 enchanting stones, and yeah, there's no confirmation on any of the use of them just yet. Somebody asked about, are they working on a new class? No, they're not. No druid, no monk, sorry. Otherwise, will they do it sometime down the road? Maybe, but not in M25 and not in M26. I asked about the bind status of the new weapons because currently on the live server, when you have a look at them in the North Dark Reaches campaign, it does show that they will be bound to your character when you pick them up. And it's very likely like that for the legendary ones as well. However, in the collections, it still says that those new weapons are bind on equip to your character, meaning you could sell them before equipping them if you wanted to. I don't know if that bind status has changed, and it worries me a little bit because that would be sorely unfortunate. But otherwise, they are the best in slot weapons, and they probably want players to actually spend time playing the game to get them rather than just buying them. That's at least my guess. But that's about it for the day's stream. Again, it was an hour long, and hopefully this has shortened it down a bit more concisely. Again, special thank you to all of these channel members for their continued support. And if I presented this well, consider leaving the video a like. And if you're new around here, consider subscribing. See you guys around. Goodbye for now.